Hi everyone. Today I'm here with.
Peter Sohn.
Hi Peter. Thank you so much for joining us today for a little tiny interview. Congratulations on your film Elemental.
Thank you very much.
But tell first our audience a little bit about you and what do you do for anyone that doesn't know.
Yeah, so my name is Peter Sohn. I am the director of Elemental, and I've worked at Pixar for over 20 years.
That's incredible. So how was that start? Where did you start to get into animation?
I started as a little kid. I really loved watching animated movies in the theater with my mom, and I found a book, The Illusion of Life, when I was in elementary school at the library.
Yeah.
And there's a little flip book there, and I started making flip books and got really obsessed until I made a short film in high school, and then got into an animation school, and just kept. All I wanted to be was an animator.
Mm-hmm.
And then my first job was on the Iron Giant at Warner Brothers. And so I started as a rough in-betweener there, very short time, but I felt like I learned a lot. And then, another project there, went to Disney TV, and then got to Pixar on Finding Nemo in 2000. And I've just been bouncing around Pixar since then.
Wow, that's incredible. How was that transition between, because I understand you do 2D and then like 3D. How was that?
I guess it was harder for me. I really wanted to just do 2D animation. That's it. But then once my second year at school, Toy Story had come out. And so that really changed everything. And I got so excited about what all those filmmakers were doing. And so, but I still didn't know the computer. And so I gotten a couple jobs in 2D. But then there were a lot of 2D films that were sort of dying at that time. There were more 3D films coming out. And when I got to Pixar, I was a sketch artist. So I was just designing scuba gear and fish tank stuff for the end of that movie. And they asked me to, the director in the stand asked me to, he saw my work and he was like, hey, why don't you come help us in story? And so I went to storyboarding, which was sort of like 2D animation. And I had a lot of fun there. But then jumping onto the next show, Incredibles, Brad had asked me to jump into animation. And that was where it was somewhat of a transition. It wasn't a long one. It was just like, oh, I just had to change my mindset of how to capture life in the computer. It was almost like a video game. You're like, oh, this is punch, that's kick, but yeah, it was that game.
Wow, that's awesome. And also you directed and we saw the talk about the incredible Elemental.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, this is the question I wanted to ask during the talk. I know it came from a place of heart.
Yes.
And it's like a vulnerable subject.
Yes.
How do you do as an artist to be vulnerable in public? How do you bring that and bring that heart into the story?
It's very scary to be vulnerable because you can get hurt very easily. But, I have grown up this way with my family, meaning most of the time, a stereotypical thing with Asians is that they're not very emotional, but my mother and father were very emotional people. They weren't loving. They didn't say I love you all the time, but they spoke their feelings all the time. And so we would argue and cry all the time. And so there was that upbringing that I feel like was there. Now, when working with people, I'm not comfortable just talking about it. But when I want to communicate something, I don't want to bullcrap. I don't want to sort of play any games. I just want to be very clear about the feelings of something. And so I tend to find my way to talk about something that's meaningful to me, because if it's truthful, then it's easier to come out.
Yeah. And I just talked about making this story and talking to other people that had gone through similar things.
Yes.
Do you think that was a bonding experience for everyone?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was definitely connecting us, and it gave us even a more focused drive of what the film was going to be. Like in the beginning, it could have been anything, but growing with this crew together, hearing everyone's stories, listening to everyone and questioning, that sort of became what Ember and Wade needed to start doing. And that act of empathy and compassion for each other definitely bonded us, but it also gave us another language that we could use to make the film.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I'm very happy to hear that that's what happened with the crew.
Yeah.
And in terms of like handling the crew as the director,
Yes.
how do you kept them motivated through what it was? Because I understand that the film, like, it's 2023 film, so probably was in production during a difficult time.
Yes, yes.
How was that to keep it motivated? And
It was an up and down experience. Like, there are some times where I feel like we were successful and sometimes we were not. The times that I think we were successful really became about transparency, being very honest and open about the issues and where you're at in any phase of the film. And then, I really believe in the energy of working together. Like, I really believe that there is a natural phenomenon that can happen when an idea gets thrown to a group. And if they are all on the same page about it, it can generate a hum between a group of people where they all know what they need to do to help either solve it or riff off of it. And that feeling is what I keep chasing for when I'm working with a group of people. Because I always believe that, like, everyone is giving gifts and everyone is presenting a gift and you don't want to judge it. You just want to accept it and try to understand what it is and then focus it and then be critical. But yeah, it's just a lot of communication.
Awesome. And, talking about, like, getting gifts into the table and passion and inspiration, apart from animation and apart from animated films, what is it that, like, brings you passion or joy that, like, you do for, like, winding out or, like, taking some free time? What's the hobby?
The personal hobby has been photography, that's for sure. But, helping my kids out in their hobbies has been a really gratifying thing that now that my kids are old enough to have their passions, enjoying their passions with them has been a passion.
That's awesome. That's great to know that, like, that's the book that you're creating. And if you want to give something to people and, like, something that you wanted to leave them with, what would that message be?
Oh, that's interesting. I think when I was in school, something that I regretted was that I didn't share my art with friends because I was so scared to show it. I would hide my work. And I really regret that. I would recommend that anyone starting up and to just constantly share your work. Show it to friends, show it to strangers, get feedback, learn, grow together. Being open and sharing in that way was something that I grew to learn, and it's so valuable. But I didn't when I was in school, and I regretted that.
That's actually a beautiful note to end with. Like, thank you so much for taking the time.
Brenda, thank you very much.
The film is beautiful.
Thank you.
And I watch it over and over, and I'll keep crying with it. But thank you for making it, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Bye.